Welcome back to Fan Talk, everybody. Guess what day it is?
It is Thursday still, right?
Thursday?
Yeah.
Throwback Thursday.
Yeah, well, let's throw it back.
And we are going to throw it back, and not as far back, well, in your case, farther back than we've been throwing it. In my case, not so much. But you'll see there's a theme here when you realize what came out.
And it's a laugh.
And it's a laugh.
They'll put a smile on your face.
So how about you go first with...
Batman 1989.
1989.
The Prince music video that started off the comic book craze.
That's
Not counting Superman. The one that really did actually kind of start off the comic book one. I mean, the Superman movies, Superman's movies.
They weren't...
The first one was good, but they weren't this groundbreaking that really started off like a whole new genre.
No, I mean, people like me, I remember watching the Superman movies and enjoying them. My parents watched them. It was kind of the film that kind of reached all people. But
quality-wise, they're just a step above like 50s, like B sci-fi.
Yeah.
I mean, they're up there with Buckaroo Bands, and they just weren't groundbreaking enough to create a movement of
and
movies.
It wasn't gritty. It wasn't anything like what Batman would become. So.
Yeah, Batman 89. The Tim Burton fan favorite, starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, Jack Palance, Billy D. Williams, coming off of his Star Wars fame.
Yeah.
Movie was made for $35 million, ended with a total worldwide box office of $411, making it just runaway smash hit.
And it was understandable at the time why.
Right. Basically, the film rights were acquired back in 1979, shortly after Superman, and because of it, so you could trace the whole comic book thing to Superman, because that led the writers that worked on this from getting the film rights from DC. The studios that they originally tried selling to wanted a campy to harken back to the 60s Batman. And eventually in 1980, Warner Brothers decided, let's just give it a shot. We did the Superman movies. Let's keep it kind of in the same house.
Yeah.
And so they went through 9 different rewrites over the next 5 years of the Batman
5 years. Yeah. 5 years to get there.
Originally, they're going to only budget $20 million on it. And as I already mentioned, it ended up being $35 million. 1985, they hired Tim Burton. It wasn't until after the success of Beetlejuice in 1988 that they're greenlit it, and it got made pretty quickly at that point, because Tim Burton at that point had a hit, knew how to make movies, and they're like, okay, let's go for it. Now, some of the casting was fun on this. At that time, Michael Keaton was known for his comedic roles, and one of the first fan outrages before the age of the internet was oh my God, Beetlejuice is going to be Batman.
I know, and I loved this though because he had done a few dramas.
Yeah.
And if you'd seen him, he did really well. And in his comedic roles, usually there was a little seriousness to some of them, and he had really nailed it. But this was one of those roles that there was a lot of upset. But, I mean, I would still say he's one of the best Batmans ever. He was very, very good.
I'm Batman.
Batman.
Jack Nicholson, they pretty much is always in the mind for as the Joker.
Yes.
He was at the height of his powers then as well.
Yeah.
He demanded top billing, which is why it's Nicholson Keaton.
Yep.
A higher salary, percentage of the takes. He made about 60, 70, maybe $80 million off this movie. Just because he got a percentage of the cut.
Yeah.
And he got to choose and dictate his own shooting schedule.
That's nice.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Just another little side note on him that I came across when I was looking into this. He later worked with Tim Burton on Mars Attacks, remember he played the president, and he also played the Vegas real estate developer.
Yeah.
Do you know why he got to have 2 characters in that movie? Because the studio told Tim Burton, you cannot kill off Jack Nicholson's character in Mars Attacks. So he wrote a second role for him and killed them both off.
He's like, oh yeah, watch me.
Double down.
Double down.
I thought that was great. The tone of this movie was based upon The Killing Joke, and then also the Red Hood Joker origin. We had some tie-ins to that. This movie led to 3 sequels, come what they may. Batman Returns, which is actually considered by many to be a superior Batman movie to the first Batman movie, and as far as storytelling, cinematography, and other things. I think most of our hearts are in with the first one as being the best one.
They are wrong, but okay.
And some of the things that the Penguin are a little out there. They thought the Catwoman was fairly well done, though, especially compared to later Catwoman. And I see where they're going with the fact that The Batman Begins is also a good movie. Both of these two are very good movies.
Yeah.
I still personally think Batman 89 is the stronger one of the two. And then there's also that third and fourth one, which I'm not going to really talk much about today. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's a
But the thing that actually makes the 4 of them a quadrilogy is Pat Hingle Siegel playing Commissioner Gordon was in all four of them, and Michael Gove, my apologies, was the actor that played Alfred in all four of them. So there is a connection of those two actors on those characters. It did win the Academy Award for Best Art Direction. They talking about this movie when doing the art set design is they wanted the ugliest city possible when designing it. They got it.
They did.
I mean, it's like a mishmash of all kinds of styles, and also has a very at the same time a modern, neo-modern, and 1930s feel all at the same time to it.
And it's sometimes some real gothic
kind
of feel
gothic.
to it. Yeah.
Nicholson was nominated for Best Actor. Did not get it, though, but it was nominated. Bill Finger, who co-created Batman, obviously did not get a nod in there, but in 2016, after all that was settled, now he got added back into all the credits at that point. Any kind of ones made since then. Casting ideas. Originally, Willem Dafoe, Ray Liotta, and Pierce Brosnan were all considered for the role of Batman. Each one of those is interesting thought, and probably better than Clooney.
Don't fuck on poor George Clooney.
I love Clooney.
George
I love his
Clooney
work.
is the man.
Even he will concede, though, that was not the best Batman.
Bat nipples, man.
For the Joker, other people that were considered if Nicholson didn't work out, James Woods, John Lithgow, who actually talked Tim Burton out of even thinking about him at the audition because he didn't think it was going to go anywhere, the movie.
I like John Lithgow would have been a good Joker. That man is another person who he can play the funniest characters and like be so funny, yet he can play a serial killer like in Dexter, and you're like, oh my god, that man is scary.
James Woods would have brought an interesting dimension to it.
Yeah.
Also another option, this would have gone a completely different direction, David Bowie. That would have gone a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And then also Tim Curry, who seemed to get spurned on this one of applying white makeup and go on to another made-for-TV movie with white makeup.
That's right.
Robin Williams lobbied hard for the role, but was not considered. I think that could have been an interesting choice as well. I think he would have been better off as more of a wisecracking Riddler than more of the psychotic Joker. Keaton was actually the one that came up with the idea of having Batman speaking in a lower register, which has continued to all Batman since, and has kind of become a trademark of the character.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you never think about when reading a comic book, but in the live action, it makes more sense. His Batman speaking in a lower register is the same as Clark Kent putting on glasses. It's not really going to change if somebody's going to recognize your voice or not, but it looks good for the movie.
Well, I mean, it definitely could, though. If you think about it, if you hear, my voice all the time, and then I'm talking like this, I wouldn't think that was me, I mean, because especially with Christian Bale's interpretation of it, it's so...
They took that to the extreme.
Yeah, took it to the extreme, yeah.
Originally, the script called on Vicky Vale to be killed, and they decided by the Joker and kind of give the Batman like an angst kind of reason, but they decided against that and made her more of the actual love to the end of it love interest. Danny Elfman did the score. Prince obviously did the song soundtrack, and his first becoming one of the first movies that actually had two soundtracks because of this, the song one and then the score, which actually became fairly common after that.
Yeah, it's very common.
One of the first movies to have this much merchandising associated with it. I mean, this had the big old banner in Times Square.
Yeah.
And all the toys.
Everything. Everything. It's
Batman
whenever...
the flamethrower.
Yeah. This is, literally, I think Spaceballs made knocks on this stuff, but it was crazy. Like, you could not go into a store and not find Batman everything, not just toys. I mean, video games. I had Batman on the Super Nintendo, Batman on this point in time was still the original NES.
Yeah.
Great game, by the way.
Changed the world as far as tying in merchandising to a movie. Also changed, this is the beginning of the change towards most of your box office, or a good chunk of it coming from the opening weekend as opposed to over time, which is how it had been before.
Yeah.
Also, I was talking the comic book movies, and it took a while for it to build steam, but in 1989, pretty soon Spawn came along, pretty soon Blade came along. It wasn't that much longer. It was less than 10 years.
Yeah.
Cinema Scores got an A. Rotten Tomatoes, it's at a 71%, which is actually right around the Joker movie, which is coming out this weekend. So it's kind of interesting, comic movies of different qualities and styles, making a similar kind of Rotten Tomatoes grades.
Similar people are watching them.
Yeah. Burton has gone back saying like he actually considers this movie boring. He has, and he says he kind of enjoys like parts of it and stuff, but it's not his type of thing. He just like gone back and he's like, man, it's all right. I find it kind of funny, but he's also made so many other interesting and visually stunning movies over the years. I could see that as well. But yeah, my Throwback Thursday was the Batman. The Batman's coming out 2 years from now.
Yeah. Well, so, in keeping up with the Joker, I went ahead and do my Throwback Thursday as
Cesar Romero's Batman?
The Dark Knight. No, I went ahead and went with Chris Nolan's second iteration in his trilogy of Batman, The Dark Knight. It came out in 2005, starring Christian Bale, Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine. We had Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Taking over the role of Katie Holmes.
Yep, Aaron Eckhart, who played Two-Face. And, of course, the late Heath Ledger, who played the iconic Joker.
Yeah.
This movie, it cost $185 million to make. It banked just a little bit over $1 billion in the box office.
$1 billion.
You could say that it did well.
Yes.
A lot of that had to go off of the great, amazing performance of Heath Ledger in his portrayal of the Joker. His portrayal of the Joker was very much taken straight from The Long Halloween and The Killing Joke graphic novels, which were both written by Bill Finger, creator of Batman. This movie won 2 Oscars, and I found it very interesting. On Rotten Tomatoes, usually get some different scores between like what Rotten Tomatoes scores it and then like the fans score it. They both scored an exact equal 94. Which is really unusual and also a really high score for a comic book movie. But a lot of this, I could go in and on and on and on about different things about this, but Christian Bale did an extremely good job in this film. Morgan Freeman. This was really all rode on the coattails of the performance of Heath Ledger and his performance in The Joker.
Yes, and I'd like to throw in one more thing on that. Also, not taking anything away from him at all.
No.
But also the goodwill that the first movie, Batman Begins, had built up. People were excited for the sequel.
The sequel, yes. And the first one, Batman Begins, was also a very, very good movie. And in fact, that film, I thought they did a really good job at, in my opinion, not using a major character. Not saying the Scarecrow is a major villain. He is, but he wasn't as big a villain as, like, say, the next 2 films where you have Bane.
Even Bane is a second tier to non-comic book character, not comic readers.
Yeah, but the Joker usually is kind of the go-to for your come out the door swinging, a Batman villain, and that just wasn't what they did. Or the Riddler, the Penguin, Bane actually is a pretty big character.
He is in the comics, but I never heard of him beforehand because I never read the comics.
Yeah, but but Heath Ledger, just whenever he got the part, there was a lot of mixed reviews on, why the heck did he get this role? And then the movie came out, and everybody was blown away. And I really liked this portrayal of the Joker because it's just everything that encompasses the character. He did such a good job at really looking at what makes the Joker a likable villain, yet a successful villain. And the likability is that he has charm. He's a very charming character.
Yeah.
But on the dark side of it, he's totally and completely insane.
Yeah, he has the charisma and the entertainment value. Like, you want to see what's going to happen next with what he's going to say and do next, and it's great to hear him say it.
Yeah. And it has a lot of...
Even that dry lip smacking.
Oh, yeah. I love his whole portrayals of, people try to figure out what's wrong with them. And he's always like, you want to know how I got these scars? And he tells this story, and you're, sitting there, and you're, buying into it. And then, later, it becomes a different story every time. Because, yeah. And that's the thing why I was a little upset about this new Joker film. Is, but... I don't really know the backstory, but you know what? Other people have done it too. I pick a lot about this film, and I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited to go and see it. But other films have done the same thing. Even the cartoons have tried to add some sort of backstory, including the Killing Joke.
Oh, and also Batman 1989. It was a big thing that they tied it into. He was Jack Napier who killed Bruce Wayne's parents, which obviously is not
canon.
Yeah.
But you also say the same thing about The Killing Joke. The Killing Joke is a graphic novel, but it was never wrote to be canon film. In fact, it was wrote to be a pulp, like a lot darker and grittier than the other Batman. So they took, Barbara Gordon, and she was literally, shot and paralyzed and other things I won't mention. It was pretty graphic.
Yeah.
There was a lot in that you hadn't seen a Batman before, and there was hints in that from the Joker's past as well, of him being a comedian and having a wife at one point in time, which once again, that story was never meant to be canon, which is kind of interesting. It was so incredibly popular, though, people loved it so much that a lot of that story has eked its way into Batman,
the rest of the
mythos and Batman canon and other comics, and now even the films, because it was so incredibly popular, which is what happens.
Yeah.
So, but for my Throwback Thursday, and kind of short and sweet here, most of this.
Well, we also have a fresher memory of this one since it's a bit more recent than our usual throwbacks. Yeah,
but a lot of it is just to get people thinking about our different portrayals of the Joker.
Who's your favorite?
It's going to be tough, man.
Okay, let's lay it out. You got Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
I'm just going to set that one aside for a second. I really appreciate the 60s Batman. I had fun watching them, but that is not my type of Batman at all. I know some people love the campy aspect of it, and it is what it is, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, then there's also Nicholson. There's Mark Hamill in the animated series. Mm-hmm. There's Heath Ledger. And now you haven't seen it, so we'll leave out the new one, Joaquin Phoenix. And then also, I think it's because this is calls in the line of parody, I'm not going to include the Batman Lego movie Joker.
Yeah.
That's more of a parody.
There's actually a couple other people who voiced him. So, it's almost not fair to just include just Mark Hamill. But if you're going to do it, nobody's going to beat out Mark Hamill as far as voicing the Joker. And I will say this too about voice acting that's so incredibly fascinating to me is I'm one of those people, I feel like I could probably be a decent voice actor. I just could never practice. I don't see how people get away with sitting around practicing these voices and people don't like.
They work on perfecting the voices that way.
Like, are you mad? Have you lost your mind? Can you imagine Mark Hamill sitting in his house with his wife and kids going, doing his old Joker impersonation? They're like, Dad's gone crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm torn between the two movies we did, which is kind of why I'm glad that these are the two we picked, because
they're also just different aspects.
Because I'm going to say I really love Heath Ledger's version of the Joker. I love it. It fits my mythos. It fits the way I envision the Joker. When I picture him in any comic, any story I've read, Heath Ledger nailed it. That is definitely my version of the Joker. That being said, until that movie was made, I definitely would have went with Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson was fantastic, and he
stole every scene. I'm split on those two as well. He stole every scene. He actually commanded a criminal empire.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Heath Ledger's didn't. He's more just kind of a one-off anarchist. He recruited some help and had some other clowns working for him, literally.
Yeah.
But as far as having a massive criminal empire, Nicholson's Joker had that, and he seemed to be more in control of the situation and actually trying to do something and having some kind of crazy plan, as opposed to Heath Ledger's, which was more of a I just want to set these dominoes up and see which way they fall.
See, and I agree and I disagree with that, actually, because, I will say this, though. Jack Nicholson, he did command an empire, and I also really loved a lot of the little things, the one-lines in there that just really fit back to that. It pulled in that comic book campiness, but also was a fantastic Joker, and it's kind of the way you envision him, some of the most famous lines from the movie, but when Batman wheels away and he's like, where does he get those wonderful toys, and it's just that's a perfect line.
And also squeezing the flower with the acid in it misses, and then he's gleefully just evil from it.
Yeah, just enjoys it. And then the scene where Batman's coming at him with the thing and with his airplane, and the Joker's
ridiculously long gun,
and you're just there's some of these great scenes that you're but that's the thing, to him everything's a laugh. There's nothing serious, life, death, it doesn't matter. And so he kind of had that same viciousness and stuff that the Joker had, but it was a little more campy and fun, where Heath Ledger's a little darker. Where I disagree, though, is Heath Ledger's character, he was an anarchist, but he definitely embodied the Joker in that the Joker, he commanded respect, right? He was always 6 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah,
so
he's probably one of the smartest
He
ones.
didn't have to, have a bunch of henchmen working for him. He was so smart, eventually everybody's working for him and they didn't even realize it. And in that movie, they were building that. And in fact, there was originally a plan was to have a second Dark Knight movie, like The Rise of Joker. Like, it was basically going to be a lot more Joker character, but of course Heath Ledger died and we can never go back to that.
Yeah, you can't recast in the same series.
No. And so it just wasn't going to happen. But, in that first movie, he's going to these different criminal underlords and he's
gonna leave you my card.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna talk to you. Guy kills some of them and he burns their money and stuff.
Want to see a magic trick?
Yeah, he's like, you just aren't thinking big enough, and that's what he's telling them. They weren't thinking big enough. But even in that film, the whole plot, his whole plan, was to create Harvey Dent and take him down to crush the spirit of Gotham. So that wasn't just him fumbling around and creating anarchy. Sure. His anarchy had a plan.
Yeah,
he had a big, giant plan, and that was what makes it so hard for Batman to catch him and figure things out. Is it comes across as just complete madness, but he's a genius, and that's one of the things I really love about the Joker is that he is completely insane.
He's a very unstable genius.
Yeah, but he is a genius, and he is the yin to Batman's yang. I mean, they definitely are 2 sides of the same coin, which is really interesting, and I really love that scene in that film. I think the reason why that performance sticks with me is just the part where they're hanging off the building and he's just like, I feel like we're gonna do this forever. Yeah. I can't bring myself to kill you and you'll never kill me. And it's like, God, but that's so Batman, because Batman through
just summed up the whole series.
Yeah, the whole thing. Batman's such a bad butt, right? He's just vicious and really out to punish, where Superman is about, justice, Batman's about revenge,
Yeah.
And so, but for all that being said, Batman, for the most part, he doesn't kill. He will not kill, and Joker, I mean, he's a horrible, evil villain. This is, if you're going to kill somebody, this is the guy to kill, and Batman never does. And So
was anyone actually ever worried that Batman really was going to kill Superman?
I guess he was. That thing was always weird for me. Of course,
the whole setup was so awkward in that movie.
Yeah, it was just awful. And if you were going to do a story about Batman and Superman and all that, then you should have done Tower of Babel, which was fantastic, because that actually made Batman not just a lunatic; it made him making sense. Batman, whenever Justice League is created, right? He's looking at all these super people, and and this is also one of the great things about Batman. He's just like, these are his friends. These are his friends. And he's thinking, yeah, but they're really powerful. What if they ever became too powerful for their own good, I gotta know how to kill all these guys. So he literally goes and finds all his friends' weaknesses and draws up a plan to basically eliminate every single one of them if something bad happens. And he has it all locked away in his super, Bruce Wayne Batman vault, and some bad guys get his information, and so it's like all the way down to him having a kryptonite bullet to kill, Superman or Supergirl, and he had this way to take out Aquaman and Wonder Woman, everything, because it's like, but that's the way this man thinks. It's like,
how can I always see the upper hand, especially when I'm mortal?
Yeah, I'm just a man. These people are super, and if something goes wrong and these people become bad, how do we stop them? And it's like, these are your friends, man. You should be able to talk some sense to them. You don't go making kryptonite bullets, dude. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. I saw a meme on Facebook the other day. Don't wrap this up. It was like a picture of Thor, MCU Thor, standing next to a Batman. I think it was Ben Affleck's one. And it said, who would win in a fight? And several people were commenting, putting their money on Batman. I'm like, a hammer to the face and it's over.
Right?
Anyway.
No, well, that's the thing, though. Everybody wants their favorite characters to win. And, one of my favorite things, and me and some of my friends, including me and you, have sometimes nerded out about these things. And my favorite has always been between DC and Marvel's who would win is the Incredible Hulk or Superman. And I've had people argue with me to death about Superman. He's smarter, he's this, he's that. And I'm like, Superman is not immortal. The Incredible Hulk is literally immortal. The angrier he gets, the more powerful he gets.
Superman wasn't beat by Thanos and Thor.
Yeah, that's right. He was beat by Doomsday and killed. Guess who's never died in the MCU? That's right.
So should the battle really be between Thor and Superman?
That's another one. Like, I don't know, man.
Because they pretty much said that Thor won between him and the Hulk.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the comics, like the Hulk loses in a fight, like, but that was also early on in comics that like the Hulk gets worn out, or he just basically he quits because he's like, oh, whatever, and
also depends on which comics we're going off of or which media we're going off of. Obviously, I'm basing mine off movies.
Yeah, but the Hulk, in the comic books, I mean, there's the whole Illuminati, which I could get into with some of my likes and dislikes of certain comic book characters, just like Reed Richards from Fantastic Four. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they portray him in this film, because they've always kind of made him out as this geeky, good guy. Reed Richards is not a good guy. Reed Richards is a jerk. I was going to use a different word. He is a jerk, okay? The guy has all these weapons he builds, which are mega wicked dangerous. He just keeps locked away instead of, not inventing them. He's a member of the Illuminati. He constantly is doing very shady, questionable things. And the fact that his lovely wife tolerates it makes me question her, too. But for another day. But, in that whole series, she tries
to stop him, but he just sees right through her.
But in that whole area, Hulk, he actually, they try to banish him away because he's just too dangerous to even be on Earth, and that spawns the whole, Planet Hulk, World War Hulk. Literally everybody in the Marvel Universe is united against the Incredible Hulk like they were against Thanos, and he's still whooping their butts. Yeah, I'm just saying, Superman, even super evil Superman, Batman could take him down by himself. He just gets his little kryptonite bullet, and that's that. The Hulk doesn't have a weakness like that, where you could just be like, oh, you are now weak.
Well, Superman could throw him into the sun.
No. Hulk doesn't die, man.
Okay, he'll be stuck in the sun for the next 4 billion years.
He just jumps off of it.
There's nothing to stand on. It's gas.
Dude, this is the comic world, okay?
Okay. All right.
He swims through back home.
We've gone way off.
I know. I know. It's ridiculous.
We can talk about this all night, and we probably will at some point. But hey, guys, thanks for watching our Throwback Thursday. Yeah, please remember to like and subscribe, and check us for our next one next week.
And feel free to leave comments in the bottom and tell us how ridiculous we are, how right or wrong we are.
Superman.
You're so wrong. Hulk. Anyways, like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.